everyone, so today I have a hair tutorial for you guys on how I fix butchered haircuts on dolls. So I'm sure we've all seen those secondhand dolls that have really bad bob haircuts or really just uneven haircuts that a child attempted to give the doll. Or maybe even you yourself are guilty of giving a doll a really bad haircut. I know I am. If you've watched my episode of Dolly Tales called Shelly's Salon, I talk all about my many hair disasters. Having a doll with cut hair doesn't necessarily mean a death sentence. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use them as a body donor, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they need a reroot. I like to keep the factory hair as much as possible on dolls because rerooting is really expensive and incredibly time consuming. So I only reroot really special dolls to me. I don't reroot every doll that has a really bad haircut. So I have 4 Bratz dolls to show you guys today. They are all from the same previous owner who really liked dyeing their doll's hair, cutting their doll's hair, and just generally mutilating them. I will have a whole transformation video of the dolls from that lot coming soon. So I want to show you what they look like. I also have pictures of them before and after. This is just my technique. There are a lot of ways you can cut hair. I did go to cosmetology school, but I'm not like an active cosmetologist, so I don't have like the most experience, but I also am not completely unaware of how to do this. We have Kids Jade. So her previous owner cut her bangs. As you can see, she has this little chunk left. That's because she had straight across bangs. And the back of her hair is really uneven. There's all these straggly bits. Then this is the worst one. This is my hair flare, Baby Zaz. Not only is her hair really short, it's supposed to be super long, it's also pretty uneven. Like this side especially is a lot shorter, and her hair was cut with something really blunt, so it made her ends kind of frizzy and not nice looking. And then I have a 2002 Strut Megan. Again, they were going for like this asymmetrical cut, but clearly it didn't do the best job. It's not the worst. I've definitely seen worse. And then last but not least is 2002 Express It Chloe, who's got some really short hair going on. So I've already cleaned and boil washed these dolls because when I fix haircuts, I like to start with that first, especially because the boil wash, you can like re-find the part line where it's thatched and lay it flat, because that's what you want to follow when you're fixing a doll's haircut. You don't want to like make your own part line unless you're going to thatch it. Once I'm done trimming their hair, if I feel like they need it to be re-boil washed to reset it, I will, especially because like Chloe over here has some like bumps in her hair. What you're going to need, you can use a doll stand, that's optional. If you're starting out cutting doll hair, you'll probably want this. I usually hold the dolls between my legs, and for my like little people over here, I don't really have any stands that are short enough, so I'm just going to hold them between my legs. But this is my beautiful hair aerial stand. I'm borrowing it again. You're going to need some little clips. You could use a big jaw clip if the doll has really long hair, but obviously for these dolls, they have very, very short hair, so using like one big clip isn't going to work. And I also have my little container of little jaw clips in case I need to pin back small sections, and a fine-tooth comb. It works best if you have like one with a rat tail end because it's easiest to part. Of course, you're going to need scissors. Today I'm actually using my professional shears because if you watched my trimming tutorial, I use just regular old scissors, and those are getting really dull, and these dolls have really like janky haircuts, so they need a lot of precision. So I need to buy a cheap pair of hair shears for them, but I don't have them right now. So I'm going to be using my professional ones, these bad boys, which are really sharp, like especially when these were first sharpened, they could like slice your finger open. And then it helps to have thinning shears, which have the teeth. I've shown these before in videos. This kind of will help lessen the bluntness of some of the ends, especially on dolls that have really, really janky looking hair, like these guys. You should ideally do this in an area, as I mentioned last time, where there is like a floor you can sweep and clean up easily. Without further ado, let's get to it. I'm starting with Strut Megan. I like to cut on dry hair for dolls because sometimes when it's wet and then it dries, the texture sort of changes. So that's what I'm going to be doing, but you can cut wet if you want. Also, every haircut is different. Every time a kid gives a doll a haircut, or you mess up a doll haircut, it's going to be different. So I'm just teaching you kind of a general technique. So Megan has this asymmetrical haircut, which I don't think is entirely bad, but I feel like it's a little bit too dramatic in the front here, and that's what makes it look so bad. So I'm gonna find the bottom section of her hair. And you can see it's harder to clip her hair up. So I'm gonna have a look here at the bottom of her hairline. And this particular layer doesn't have any long bits, so I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to kind of clean up this a bit. So I don't know if you can tell, but there's like a hole in her hair right here. So I'm just going to The key is not to get too scissor happy. You don't want to give them a really awful haircut again. So I'm just making my base. And I've got to get rid of this like hole that they made. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this slight asymmetry, but I'm definitely going to make it way less dramatic. So I'm going to keep my fingers tilted and I'm just going to trim. I'm sorry if my hands look really weird. It's because I was picking up hay at the farm. So I have like a lot of splinters and stuff that are making my hands look dirty. And it helps if you point cut, so point vertically to kind of break up the bluntness of the line. And what I like to do on dolls with really bad haircuts like this, I'll usually, every layer, I'll just make a few quick passes on the last little bit of hair with thinning shears, just so it doesn't stay really bulky. And then I'm going to continue on with my next layer. And you want to do a little section by little section so you don't lose your guide. And most of the time, you have to work with the shortest layer of hair that you have. So if they have really long hanging bits that are uneven, you'll probably have to trim those off because it's not going to look good. The biggest problem with someone cutting doll hair that doesn't know what they're doing, whether it's a kid or, you know, you just don't know what you're doing, is people don't section the hair. They just cut it all together, and that's really bad because if you make a mistake, you can't cover it up with the top layer. That's why when I trim in layers, because, you know, if you mess up one little layer, you can easily mask it with another. And also, the way doll's hair sits is different than people hair. So as you can see, Megan has like a lot of volume, which makes her hair poof up. So this was not an ideal haircut for her at all. I can't tell you how many of these asymmetrical haircuts I've seen. Now, I think a lot of times people don't mean for them to be asymmetrical. I think it's just because they don't have a guideline and they don't know how to cut doll hair, because that's what used to happen to me. But I'm pretty sure with Megan it was intentional. So I'm just going to keep repeating this process until I get to her part line, and then I'll check in with you guys. So I've combed down Megan's last sections. She does not have super definitive part line, so I've kind of tried my best to part it how it will lay on display. And the reason for this is because strutted Megan dolls have their hair worn in twists, so their parting is thatched very weird, so she couldn't possibly have it that way. So you can see the overall shape of the haircut now, but I need to get rid of these really long straggly bits. Now Megan has these little like side bang pieces which are factory, but because of the way her hair has been cut, they kind of mingle in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up a little bit and make this side a little bit more dramatic looking, so it still has that like asymmetrical look. So with this kind of haircut, it's really all about like the small little details. You don't want to like cut off too much, you want to take it little by little, and then once you have the majority of those long scraggly bits out of the way, you can really see the shape of the haircut and tweak it a bit. It's also important to look underneath the doll here, because the way doll's hair is rooted, sometimes they get like little bits that kind of stick out, so just skim them, because that's going to make it look a little bit more polished. And if you wanted layers to kind of thin out the bulk, you just take like little vertical sections and you just let the longest bit drop out, and then you trim off. And I'm just doing this to kind of take out some of the bulk. And I'm just creating subtle layers that way so that it's not so heavy looking. And I'm only going to do them in the back, not in the front, because the front is supposed to have the asymmetrical look. And it helps to kind of keep fluffing the hair, seeing if you missed any bits. And then I like to go back and use one more pass of these thinning shears to really take out some of the weight, especially on this side over here where it's the shorter side, because most dolls with really short hair aren't rooted with as much as dolls with longer hair because of the amount of volume it creates. So Megan's hair was not meant to be really short, so it's good to like thin it out a little bit. And there's Megan, all done. So you can see she has some slight layering in the back there, which gives her some nice volume, and then it looks still asymmetrical, but more intentional. I wouldn't want to go much shorter than this because her hair is so thick. So now I'll show you Chloe, because Chloe is kind of a different case scenario. She is more just a blunt cut that someone messed up. So I'm going to start the same way. I'm just going to part her on the bottom. And it helps if you go row by row, but when hair is pretty short on dolls, it's really hard to do that. So just try to take as small sections as you can, even if it's not literally row by row. And so I'm going to have to use Chloe's shortest point as sort of like my guide here. It is a little bit longer in the front, which is okay. It's best to kind of part it by the ears. It's good to kind of bring the hairs to the front of her head and feel how they compare. So these feel pretty even. This side's a little bit longer, and I see the little bit that I forgot to. It's just good to keep checking and make sure everything is nice and even before you move on to the next layer. For Chloe, I'm not going to use the thinning shears as much because she doesn't have as much hair as Megan. She actually was rooted very skimpily, as you can see. And it's important just to keep checking, just to continue to make sure that it's even with every layer. And it's important to make sure that their heads are in the same position each time you cut, because that can throw off the balance. Now on a person, you usually cut the hair to a middle part unless it's a really dramatic haircut. But on a doll, you just want to cut along the way their hair naturally falls, because it's not like they're going to be changing their hair part or anything. So I'm going to find Chloe's to the best of my ability. I also find that it really helps if you clean up the bangs. It makes it look that much more polished. And now I'm going to go in with the thinning shears. Honestly, these thinning shears saved my life when it came to my childhood Rio de Janeiro Teresa, because I gave her a really short, super layered haircut as a kid, and even though I was able to even out the layers, it still looked really choppy because it's so hard to texturize doll hair. So and it's that short, so these really helped. So Jade is an interesting circumstance because her hair is thatched to be worn in 2 ponytails, and she's too small for a doll stand. So what I like to do is, since I think I'm going to try to keep her hair in the 2 ponytails, I parted it off by the part line, and I'm only going to do one side at a time, and then I'm going to see how they look compared to each other. Jade wears her ponytails on the side, like so, so I don't want to cut the hair like back, because if I did that, then I'd be cutting off all of this length and it would look really weird being pulled forward. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't want, you know, to cut it back here because I need the length to be able to move over here. So I'm going to cut her hair on the side. I'm not going to do anything really dramatic with Jade because I want to keep as much length as possible. So I'm just going to like kind of point cut out some of that unevenness. And then I'm going to use my thinning shears. They're going to be really helpful for this because her hair is going to be in ponytails. So I want to make sure that her ends are pretty wispy and not super blunt so they don't look very choppy. And obviously it's going to look different down than it is in ponytails. So you have to keep that in mind when you cut doll hair, because they're oftentimes rooted to go a certain way, and you have to keep that in mind so that your haircut works with how they're rooted. Now Jade's hair would technically lay down flat okay, but I think I want to put it in the ponytails because it would look better in the back because of her thick part line. And then I'm going to take her hair down, and I'm just going to kind of gauge how it looks overall. And I can see here that this side is a little bit longer, so I'm going to fix that because we want the ponytails to look fairly even. So as you can see, it doesn't look perfect when it's worn down, but it doesn't look terrible either. It doesn't look janky like it did before. It just doesn't look super uneven, and that's because we want to part her hair into 2 ponytails after. So the biggest problem we're going to have is with baby's Yasmin, because her hair is supposed to be worn in a long ponytail. And obviously this short layer, this is what I just sectioned off, you can see that it barely wants to stay up in the clip because it's so short. So the problem also is that the top of her head is rooted very skimpily because she is supposed to have her hair whooshing back, so they didn't root her very thickly. So how do you get around this problem? Well, what I'm going to do is I am going to try to even out this bottom layer the best I can, and then I'm hoping that I can maybe pull some of her hair back into like a little ponytail in the back to kind of cover up these big bald spots, but so she can, you know, still obviously to work with this short hair. So we're gonna try that. So I have sectioned off this bottom layer here and trimmed it all up to be sort of even. It's very hard on a baby's doll. And now I have what I think is going to be the ponytail that kind of goes back and covers things. And you can see this person also tried to make side bangs, so I have this little piece hanging out here. So I'm going to try to keep backwards as I trim it, just so I make sure not to lose length. But I really want to get rid of these frizzy gross bits. Okay, so sometimes after you finished cutting your doll's hair, it needs to be set. So baby's Yaz over here looks ridiculous. You can use an elastic band for this if you want, but I want to keep this on while it dries, so I don't want to leave like crimp marks from an elastic, so I just picked a really smooth ribbon. And then once she's totally dry, from there I can decide like if I need to trim anything else. And Chloe over here, for her, surprisingly, even though her hair is short, it sits really nice, but she's got this like bump back here that I'm going to try to get rid of. If you were dealing with a doll with Connect-On hair, not Saran, this would be a lot easier to get it to sit the way you want. So like my Pearl Beach Christie I had growing up, I'll put a picture of her in here. I cut her hair really short and it didn't sit nice, it would puff up. But since it was Connect-On, when I was older and I knew how to boil wash, it made it lay nice and flat and it almost looks like a factory haircut now. Like this final step can make a big difference. And I'm going to put some diluted gel on them after I rinse them in cold water. So I'm going to leave them for like, you know, a minute or two because this is Saran hair. And then I'll check in with you guys when I'm all done. And I also want to say about baby's Yaz, I changed my mind about what I was going to do. Sometimes your original plan kind of has to change in these situations. So I found out that one of her top layers here was cut really short. So I'm going to have to try to let her wear it down instead of putting it back in a small ponytail like my original plan. So I had to trim it for that way instead. So I'm going to show you guys the dolls now that they are all boil washed, dried, and I've even dressed them because I always like to show the dolls looking their very best at the end of these videos. And here they are. Da, 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 da. So we'll start with Kids Jade. Sorry the lighting's not so great. So her hair is in 2 ponytails. As you can see, it looks good, very blended. They're a little bit fluffy looking right now because she was getting dressed. Could push the stubble through if you wanted, but I figured it would look more noticeable it being bald. She also had some short bits like right here that I trimmed down to stubble. And then we have Megan. This haircut actually looks really good on her. I wanted to pick a really chic looking outfit, so I'll give you the 360 of Megan's hair. And then this is the back of Chloe's head. And this is Chloe's haircut. It's really cute. It's a little shorter than I thought it would end up being, only because it was more uneven than I initially thought. But I think it looks really cute. And then we have Hair Flare Yaz, and I think her hair works great down. I mean, I wish it was long, but it looks really cute, and I even put a little clip in it. And this is what the top of her head looks like. She does have like a little bit of baldness showing through, but I did the best I could, and this is what it looks like from the back. I think they look really cute. And I'll show you some of the other dolls I have laying around on display that also have had haircuts. So we have Slumber Party Chloe over here with really short hair. We have Pampered Pups Charlie over here with really short hair. One of my favorite Bratz dolls of all time, my Independence Chloe, who was bought as a body donor, but I couldn't go through with it. So there she is. Her lips were all chipped too, and she stank like cigarettes. And down here on the bottom, we have one of my 2010 Yasmin dolls and my Express It Yasmin doll, both who have bob haircuts. So those are just a few of the dolls that I have readily on display to show you that once looked as bad as these guys did, who have obviously been adopted and loved for years since. I have many more and like on my Flickr, and I'm sure you've seen some in videos. So I really hope this video could help you guys out and maybe possibly salvage some dolls that you come across that have really bad haircuts. I think what's important is to keep in mind that every doll is a unique circumstance, and that you want to try to work with what style their hair was intended to be cut in, and just really clean it up and polish it and trim little bits at a time, and really try to blend it in, and thinning shears are especially good for the blending. And also using the boil wash to set the hairstyle is something that makes a world of difference, especially on dolls with connect-on hair. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for a transformation video, a full transformation video of the dolls shown here and some others. And until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.